What's up? We are on our way to KJR. Right, Mark?
Hey.
What's up?
There's a red couch there. I hope that's right. Should be blue and green. I don't know.
On our way to 12-Man Media Show. Can't wait. It's going to be off the hook. Hopefully they'll let me shoot. I'm just going to keep shooting until they tell me otherwise.
Okay, get in. Good.
How's it going? How you doing, man?
Going good. How are you?
All right, good.
I'm Mark.
I'm David. Nice to meet you. I'm the intern here.
Oh, hey, David. I'm Norb.
Over here to the right.
Hey.
Oh, look at that. Here comes the Norb.
Hey, how you doing?
How are you?
How you doing?
I love it. It's good to see you.
Nice
Good
to
to
meet
meet
you,
you.
man.
Yeah, come on in. Come on in.
How you doing, man?
This is Norb from Norb-Cam.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome in the T-Mobile 12th Man Mania Show. The Captain Brian Abker here alongside Slickhawk. We have got Seahawk fan royalty in the building right now, Slickhawk. Highly likely that one of the reasons we're able to do this show and rejoice as Super Bowl champion fans is because of our next guest. In the face of Ken Bering's plot to move the Seahawks to Los Angeles in the mid-'90s, a renegade group of diehard fans banded together and formed an organization called Save Our Seahawks. And what they were able to accomplish and the scores of people they brought together is a testament to the passion of fans everywhere here in the Puget Sound. And here he is with us tonight, Mark Collins from Save Our Seahawks. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Except for them.
You're all upset that I'm a cougar and that Slickhawk's a duck.
I know. I'm surrounded by
As Pete Carroll
the enemy.
said, deal with it. He's in here. He's got his old school 12 jersey on, and
Yes, I do.
I'm so excited that you're in the studio because you're a big part of forming history. You and a group of diehard Seahawk fans, and a lot of people that are new to the area or new fans may not understand that this franchise could very likely have ended up in Los Angeles for good if it wasn't for a group that stood up, took notice, and did something about it. And when Ken Bering bought the team, and he bought the team when, in 96?
No. He bought in the late 80s.
Late 80s.
Yeah. And I met him at a place called Celebrities down, which is now 88 Keys.
Okay, so you met Ken Bering, and this was before you ever got into it with him, right?
Yeah.
So what your thoughts of Ken Bering when he first took ownership of the Seahawks? He bought the franchise from the Nordstroms.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I met him, he was actually surrounded by a couple of hot blondes, and, so I was trying to work my way in that direction.
Of course you were.
What can I say? I played drums in a country band.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he was a nice enough guy at the time, and, it was the 95 season, then every other week or every week there was another rumor, you hear it on the news, he's going to move the team, and he kept denying it. And in fact, it's ironic that it was we had a game, I think it was a Sunday night game. I think it was like the 17th of December.
Against the Raiders.
Against the Raiders, and we kicked their...
Yep.
Yeah, we kicked their that night. And it was the next night, I was watching the 11 o'clock news on we know Channel 4 or whatever it was, and, and another rumor comes out, and it's just like, it's something hit me, and my festivity level elevated to the point where I just had to I started typing up this letter. And, thank God I showed that letter to my attorney the next day, and he says, go clean that up. So, and actually the letter that got sent out on the 21st of December of 95 was the third draft.
The letter to who?
It was to Ken Bering, let him know that I was forming Save Our Seahawks, and he was going to, I was going to be his worst enemy, and, I CC'd Tagliabue and, the media around town. And I remember a couple of days later on Christmas Eve, I think it was Channel 11, I had my family over for Christmas Eve, and Channel 11's calling me, hey, we want to come up and interview you. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. So it was 6 weeks later. It was February 2nd, which was, it was funny because it was
February 2nd of 96?
96.
Okay.
He pulled the plug and moved, loaded up the vans, moved everything down to California.
I mean, they were gone.
They were gone. The
Equipment, the pads, the helmets, the Gatorade, it was gone down L.A.
It was gone. And, thank God, because I had, I was somewhat prepared, though I was not a media person. I had no political experience. I had no experience with the media.
What were you doing for a living at the time?
I was a contractor, and my house was paid for at the time. When Save Our Seahawks was done, I had to mortgage my house for $120,000. So,
we'll get into that because you put your blood, your sweat, your tears, your money into this whole thing. So when you sent that letter to Ken Bering, letting him know that he was going to be facing a group called Save Our Seahawks, and you CC'd Paul Tagliabue and other media members, Who did you get responses from? Did you get a response from Bering or Tagliabue?
No, I mean, I think as far as through the media, he continued to deny it up until like a week before. I mean, then it really started rumbling the last week in January. But through that whole time, but I had luckily contacted through my attorney, and I asked who was a good class action suit attorney, and I found out Steve Berman's office, and it turned out he was one of the best ones in the country, and he said he'd take on the case if in fact, but when Ken pulled the plug, his whole office was up in Whistler. So, but at least we were somewhat prepared. So the following Wednesday, we were able to file a class action suit on behalf of the fans, which, it was the pressure thing. And again, I had no experience, never had a camera in my face, never had a microphone in my face. So, and I just had to learn quick. Thank God there was people like New York Vinny and some of these other guys that would kind of took me under the wing and said, okay, Mark, you can't say that. And I said, why not?
Right. Like what, for instance?
Well, obviously they taught me to not drop any bombs and whatnot. But I mean, it was the whole experience. I mean, I was green beyond green. It was an experience. I mean, I just had to wing it, and we got lucky when they were practicing down in L.A. and we were sitting up at the Little Red Hen with my buddy, and we're 11 o'clock or midnight or whatever, and I'm freaking out, and he says, well, just go call Alaska Airlines. And so I called up Alaska Airlines. I was in the office, and I said, well, we need to get down to L.A. And the gal says, well, let me put you on hold. She calls, and she gets her supervisor on the phone or whatever, or gets her on the line, and comes back, and he says, well, how about $200? I said, $200 a piece each way? She goes, no, how about $200 round trip for the both of you?
Wow.
So Alaska Airlines jumped on board, basically sent us down there, and she had it. And that was at 2 o'clock in the morning. By the time we got out of there, we pressed it out, but it was. I mean, things just happened, and we were lucky.
Mark Collins of Save Our Seahawks joining us on the T-Mobile 12th Man Mania show. What were you going down to L.A. for?
We were going to go picket in front of the
you were going to go picket, okay.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of, there should be a book, and somebody keeps saying, oh, you got to write the book, because there's some hilarious stories we had. I mean, if we're picketing in front of the facility down there, which was a school in the middle of a neighborhood. In fact, that's when I first met Chuck Arnold, who at the time was an intern, and now he's COO of the Seahawks. So, I mean, nice guy. And we've got ridiculous stories with him. But, I mean, I remember the media guy was standing there, and he looks at me, and he goes, well, what are you going to do when you get done picketing today? And I looked him right in the camera, and I go, we're going to Disneyland. And the guy starts shaking the camera. He tried to make me do it a second time. It never works twice.
Yeah, right.
It's just got to be impromptu. But, I mean, there's some crazy stories. Like we got pulled over in the Seahawk motorhome 3 days before the election over in Ellensburg at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's another.
Well, let's keep this in chronological order so that fans, because I think there's a lot of fans out there that don't even really know this story
they don't.
in depth, and I think it's such a huge part of Seahawk history. So the night you decided to write the draft, the letter to Bering and Tagliabue, the then commissioner of the NFL, let them know, put them on notice that Save Our Seahawks was born and that you guys were going to fight this move. And then you obviously had to get some people to back you here and to be part of your team. How did that all come together, the Save Our Seahawks group? Well,
predominantly, it really, I mean, for the most, that first 6 weeks, everybody thought I was crazy. We were up at I hung out at the Little Red Hen up in Green Lake, and Dean Olsby was the owner at the time, or his family was. And they just to shut me up, they put a jar out, and people would put money in there, whatnot. Luckily, I was able to get Steve Berman's office on board. But it really wasn't until the February 2nd where everybody, because they thought, oh, you're crazy, Mark, go away. But when February 2nd came around, it's like, wow, now what are you going to do? And I'm a man of my word. So, I mean, we first went to Paul Allen, and actually I talked to his sister on the phone, and they wanted no part of it.
How did you do that? How did you get in touch with Paul Allen's sister?
Well, I'm a pretty resilient person. I can get.
Did you call?
I called over there.
You called information and said, "Could I have the number for Paul Allen's sister?" How did you get that information?
It's been a while, but I mean, I got it, and I called over Vulcan, and I got a hold of Jody, and I talked to her at length, and she just says, we're really not interested. And even though, I mean, I think you saw that one letter that I sent, and I even put in there, sell it to Paul Allen. We tried, he didn't want any part of it. Thank God we finally, we held rallies, Mick McHugh, grabbed me under his wing and kind of helped, and Paula Jellison from Norm Melling's office. So I got help, but it wasn't until April that actually, mid-April, that Paul Allen decided to buy an option to buy the team. Which was, very cool. But now we're thinking, we need a stadium. And so that means another 14 months. And, I lived off credit cards, I lived off credit lines, and I went around the state. People don't know that stadium is actually the third design. The first design only covered 10%. And I'm like, that's not going to work, because we went from a environmentally controlled stadium that, and I loved the Kingdome at the time, and you remember it yourself.
Great memories of the Kingdome.
But the more I learned about it, it was, King County, it was a good thing because we got King County out of the stadium business, number one. You couldn't, the egress in it, there was just things that were just wrong with the Kingdome, and we needed to get out of the business, as far as taxpayers. So, it was a win-win, but you had to convince people. And then just having, the stadium, the Mariner, Safeco Field, getting shoved down people's throat after hometown fans got shut down. It was hard to sell it to people because they didn't really understand. Right. They didn't understand what new money was. So it was a tough sell.
Well, let's back up just a little bit. And Mark Collins joining us from Save Our Seahawks, the story of how this franchise was saved from moving to L.A. So after going down to L.A. and picketing, Ken Behring, who had moved the Seahawks down there was an injunction filed, right? It was that by the NFL for him to move the franchise back up to Seattle?
While we were down there, actually, they told him, get back up to Seattle. Get back up there. They're going to charge. I think it was $500,000.
$500,000 fine, right?
Right. And so he sent him back up there. Luckily, like I said, we talked about it off air. With Brian Roberts and those guys and Save Our Sonics, I was fighting a different battle. The NFL really was on my side. In fact, there was times where I had to call back to New York once a week, and they kind of wanted to make sure I wasn't doing stupid things. But in fact, some of the politicians, there was times they said, "Well, we think you should do this, this, and this." But if you get in trouble, we don't know who you are.
Did anybody ever come to you, Mark, and say, listen, we appreciate what you're doing, but you're not the guy to lead the charge because you are so green?
No, the media load me. Because I was just coming up with ridiculous.
Well, you're loaded with personality, so.
I don't know about that. I don't know about the personality. I don't know. Just because I don't like cougars, it's one thing.
Oh, man, there we go again. So once Ken Behring moved back up here, what were the next steps for Save Our Seahawks to try to get the team out of his hands?
Well, at that point, I think he realized that, I think Gary Locke and, some Pete von Reichbauer and some of these other guys, the politicians were involved as well, and they were having some closed-door meetings. And I think that at that point, that's when they convinced Paul Allen. Obviously, there were some things going on behind the scenes that I had no privy of. But, what we did is we kept it in the public's eye. We were on the news every night. I made sure of that. And the media loved me because I was so green. And Paul Allen, he hired, Bob Gogarty and some of those guys, but unfortunately they came out and they say they were the grassroots that started it. Well, the media knew it, and there was a time when Bob Gogarty got mad at me. And
who's Bob Gogarty?
Bob Gogarty runs. Unfortunately, rest in peace. He lost his battle recently, a couple months ago, but he runs political campaigns and he ran hometown fans for the Mariners, and then he was the political side of Paul's campaign to keep the Seahawks in Seattle. But but there was two separate. There was Save Our. We kept separate because I was a voice for the fans, and I was fighting for the fans' interests. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because there's certain things.
And he was working the political side and the money side and all that stuff.
He was working the political side.
So let me ask you this, and Mark Collins joining us from Save Our Seahawks, the story of how this franchise was saved from moving to Los Angeles out of the clutches of Ken Behring. So when Ken got back, he moved the team back to Seattle. Obviously, at that point, he had to start thinking about, hey, if I don't want to keep this team here, if I'm worried that the Kingdome tiles are going to fall and it's going to fall apart in an earthquake, which was his, quote, excuse at the time, right? That's what he kind of said why he wanted to move the team. And you had gone to Paul Allen's sister, and she said, look, thank you, but we're not interested. Where was the turning point for Paul Allen? When did it become available for him to buy that option to buy the team?
Well, I think it was after they got told to come back. The NFL told Ken Behring to come back because Ken wasn't going to sell it to him. He was adamant about he was going to move it to California.
And did at that point Ken Behring say, "Well, looks like I might be defeated here. Maybe I ought to see if I can get some cash." And now he made available that option.
Well, I wasn't part of those talks per se, but I was roundabout. So, but the thing was, Paul says, okay, I will buy an option. He put up $100 million to, buy an option to buy the team. But part of that option, we needed a new stadium. So now we had to come up with a design. We had 14 months to do it. The deadline was July 1st. So it happened to actually July 1st is my birthday. Not was, but it still is my birthday.
Good for you.
I'm still on this side of the dirt. But so we were able to get through, we found some designs that, we found, like I said, this is the third design, which is, we were talking about how it's, they've got the metal roofs, and that's why, it's like a big speaker in there. The fact that we came from a closed environment, and, we were supposed to have natural grass. I'm glad we don't have natural grass, because obviously looking at what's going down in Santa Clara, their turf is just nuts, and obviously, that sports grass is
So you
awesome.
had to come up with the design.
You had to come up with a design.
And Paul Allen was heavily involved in doing that, correct?
Absolutely. His people, yep.
At what point did you have any interaction with Paul Allen during this process?
I had some with Paul, but mostly with his people, Mike Flood. Mike Flood came on board in mid-July, but, Bert Cole and Bob Whitsitt, who, just put this way, Bob and I didn't really care for each other, but, we had a common goal.
Okay.
But it's a business. I understand it's a business, and there's a reason why we have an outdoor stadium versus an indoor stadium, and luxury boxes is part of that, shared revenue is part of that, and it's a fan. But our fan base is really the reason why we still have this. We voted the thing in. It was a tough one. We won at 51, I think 49. And Slickhawk, is that correct?
50.1 to 49.9,
yeah, okay.
as I remember.
Yeah,
tough.
It was a close one, because still their campaign, Paul and his people were over at Union Station, and I was over at Mick McHugh's place, and they kept saying, Vinny's coming over, Mark, you gotta come over, I said, I'm not going over there until I know we won, because I was so afraid if we lost this thing, everybody's gonna go, okay, Mark, what are you gonna do now? Because it's like I've already mortgaged my house, and it's like. And I'm a man of my word, and I'm going to fight it to the death. And I told, Bering that you're not going to take my team. So, thank God it happened the way it is. It was very, very much a relief. And they did. They signed the dotted line on my birthday of 97. So.
Wow, what a great birthday present.
Yes, it was.
How cool is that? Mark Collins of Save Our Seahawks joining us. The story of how this franchise was saved from the clutches of Ken Bering, who had essentially moved the team down to L.A., was told by the NFL to get your butt back to Seattle. You're going to be fined $500,000 in the process behind finding a new owner, which obviously, thank goodness, it turned out to be Paul Allen. Before we go to break, and we got about a minute left here before we go to break and talk about it on the other side, but you had mentioned in your first letter that you wrote to Ken Bering and Paul Tagliabue, the then commissioner of the NFL, sell the team to Paul Allen. Had his name come up prior to that in discussions about owning the Seahawks? How did that name come out from the pen to the paper that you wrote down?
Honestly, it was. I finished that first letter at 1:00 in the morning, and it was part of my festivity level. The level of my festivity was to the roof, and I was just mad. And the only thing I could think of here's a guy, he'd owned the Trailblazers. He's sports minded. He had the money to do it. I just threw his name out there, and I put it in the letter, and thank God, it happened that way. But up to that point, his name had never come up.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Let's do this. We got about 30 seconds left before we go to break. I want to hear from you, Mark, kind of some of the other people that were involved with you in Save Our Seahawks, because I know, you spearheaded the thing. You put your blood, sweat, tears, and as we've learned, a lot of money of your own out of your own pocket into this thing. Who else was involved with you?
Well, as far as the fan group, there was Dean Olsby, who at the time, like I mentioned, he was the owner of the Little Red Hen. It was my girlfriend at the time. It turned up, she ended up being my wife, and I lost her to cancer in 2006. Another story. But it was Vinny. It was Mick McHugh. Mama Blue. I met Mama Blue. I met some great people doing this thing, and it really was the fans. And all I was, people say, "Oh, you're a legend. You're this and that." I'm not. I'm just another 12, and I just happen to be the voice for the fans when the fans really needed one. And as you know, our fan base was diminished at the time, so it was a tough call. But that's all I was. I'm nobody special. I'm not a legend. I'm just a regular 12, and I make a lot of noise, and I clear rows in front of me at the games.
I love that, and it just goes to show what a regular 12 can do if you really put your mind to it and want to get involved. And that goes from everything from cheering your team on to making a difference in the community. I think it's one of the great stories that we have here in Seattle sports history. You're an absolute huge part of it. Some other folks that were involved would like to join you on the show, Mark. Todd and Gail Reese on the Zeke's Pizza Hotline. How are you guys?
Hey, we're doing great.
How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing good. That's some of my friends down in T-Town.
Yeah, and I understand that you guys did some really cool things for Save Our Seahawks. What was your role in the organization?
Well, I have to say it first is that, Mark, we strongly disagree with your statement that you're nothing special, okay? You spoke for all of us that feel the same way that you do, and all of us that were so upset. You took the charge, and we just followed you. We saw him on one of the news, stories, and was like, I'm going to call that guy. I want to help this, whatever we're going to do. And our family rallied around. Our oldest son is going to be 31, and he's in the military, and we celebrate your birthday.
That's cool.
That's right. You guys were part of that surprise birthday party for me over at Bev Hopley's house, weren't you?
Yeah. It was so great. I mean, and the day that things went down, Norm Mailing was there, Bill the Beer Man, a lot of people, Christian Fourier. There was a lot of the crew from back in the day on Mama Blue. It was just,
Yeah, we had a lot of fun back then.
Yes.
Gail didn't really tell you that, but she printed out these Save Our Seahawks buttons, and I still have a couple of my drawers. I don't know if you have any or not.
I have some.
We have a few of them left.
Oh, man, you know what? I got to get my hands on one of those, because what a piece of history that is. The Save Our Seahawks button, and how cool. And you guys being a part of this, such a big movement, such a big task. To kick out a guy who, I don't know if he was a billionaire at the time. I know he was a huge real estate mogul in California, had tons of money. But to overcome and kick a guy out like that and get the team in the hands of Paul Allen, how was that whole experience to you guys in retrospect, in your memories?
It was, honestly, it was something that was so deep within our hearts. I mean, we've been 12s from when it hurt to be a 12,
Yeah.
And to see the entire state and then people across the country with their 12 flags, and it's like, now you guys finally understand what we felt all along. I love my Hawks. We always have, and Mark will always be a hero to our family. So, it's just, we thank you still.
I appreciate that. But, honestly, I mean, we should make it clear. I didn't save the Seahawks. Paul Allen's the one that saved the Seahawks. We just kind of helped facilitate that, the fan base, and those years. I think Brian remembers it as a kid. What the waves, and we were talking about off here. Bill Scott and Rick the Peanut Man. The things that went on in that kingdom, and retiring the 12s, and it's. That history goes way, way, way back, long before Paul Allen. But Paul Allen is truly the guy that saved the Seahawks. So, I mean, I don't like taking any kind of credit for that. I was just a fan, and I was just a crazy one.
Yeah, but you matched a lot of us, so we relate to you, and we always tip a beer to you, my friend.
There we go. Hey, Todd, Gail, thanks for joining the program. I really appreciate it, and thanks for everything that you guys did with Save Our Seahawks as well. And I kind of agree. I think, Mark, and I appreciate the fact that you're humble about this, but I think from the standpoint of spearheading it, sometimes the toughest thing to do is get something going. Once you can get it going and it's got a little momentum and you got people behind you, it helps. But to be the guy, to make the decision, to make the stand that, hey, I'm not going to let this happen. Who's with me? A leader like that. I think that speaks volumes, and as much as you downplay it, I still think you're a significant piece of history in Seattle to get this team to the point where Paul Allen could buy it. What have you been able to enjoy having this team now in Seattle since then, including being a Super Bowl champion fan? Well,
I mean, obviously, I think many people that know me know that my wife, late wife, I lost her on September 11th of 2006, actually. The last game that she got to see was the Carolina game that got us to the original Super Bowl. I mean, she was diagnosed with cancer at a very young age of 34. And I kind of promised her that I would get her somehow to the Super Bowl eventually, and I was able to do that this last year, and because I wear her coat to all the games.
Oh, wow.
And the games that we need a coat here anyway. But and then I got, I wore that coat to the Super Bowl. It's kind of a bucket list thing. I'm not, I'm born and raised in South Seattle. I mean, so New York was just an experience of for me. It's just something kind of, it was physically, mentally, and emotionally overwhelming. Just what happened the whole time, and then it took me 35 and a half hours to get home. But it was a phenomenal thing, and I just checked some things off the list. But to watch these games, and I remember the thing, that reminds me the most is at the tip. If everybody remembers the tip, Rich, that last drive, and I'm wearing Jenny's coat, and it's cold, and I'm looking up in the sky, and I'm like, I say, girlfriend, you got anything left? Bring it now, And I remember walking. I mean, because I have a round. I go up to Mick's place. I always got to, give Mary, and I always. Mick, if you're listening, you got to give Mary a raise. Mary paid me to say that. But I have around, and then I remember I'm walking to the train, and I just start bawling. I mean, I'm looking at the sky, and it's like, you know what? I'm taking Jenny's coat, and then thanks to Mike Gastineau and writing an article and certainly things like that, I ended up with a very, very good seat, and from Debbie McCumber and some people back. It was amazing. I mean, the whole ride has been amazing. I still love it. Somebody told me I should mount her coat and put it up, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that, because then Jenny couldn't go to any more games.
Yeah, you want to keep that available, right?
No, I mean, in fact, the Raider game was the first game she got to go through since the Super Bowl. So
Mark Collins of Save Our Seahawks joining us on 12th Man Mania. I just think it's an incredible story, and I don't know, I know that those of us that were Seahawks fans at the time know that this team was very close to not being here. Probably don't know, even with you telling the story, all the details in depth. I mean, you talk about having to mortgage your house. I mean, that's serious business right there, Mark, for a fan, for a guy who says, I'm not a hero, for a guy that's just a Seahawk fan, to go out on a limb to try to keep this team so that others can enjoy it and the history can live on in Seattle, to me is monumental. What is it about having an NFL franchise and the Seahawks in this city that would make you do that?
Honestly, I think if I had to do it all, I've asked that before, would you do it again? And differently. I would have done it, but I would have did it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But the amazing amount of people, it's something, the Seahawks were awarded to the city of Seattle. It's our team. You're not taking them. And I just, I'm just a crazed fan. Honestly, I'm just a crazed fan that doesn't take no. And when you tell me I can't do something, to me, that's a challenge. And it doesn't matter what it is. Ironic, because Russell Wilson says the same thing, and we had a discussion about why Russell Wilson's not completing a lot of passes, but I'm not going to let you.
Right. I got you.
It's a conspiracy theory, but anyway, I'm a passionate guy, and I'm glad that I'm part of that history. Like I told you, I ran across that letter that I wrote, and I had to laugh. I emailed it to Brian the other day, and it's like, because I just ran it. First time I've seen it in 18 years, and I don't know. I don't think of myself in the light that you people do. Mm-hmm. I'm just another fan, and I love the fact that I'm more so that I'm famous for clearing rows in front of me. At the Kingdom, people would turn around and I'm never going to sit in front of you again.
Well, the Kingdom days, and God bless Bill the Beer Man, who got that place rocking, got the wave fired up, made it so that Monday Night Football, when they came to town, compared that stadium to the sound of a jet engine.
Oh, yeah.
And what he couldn't have done in CenturyLink Field with this group of 12s right now. Oh my goodness. You think that record was taken back by the Chiefs? I think that he could have gotten that stadium whipped up in such a fervor that record would have been untouchable.
Oh, not in the Kingdom. Yeah, we would have blown that thing away. But.
So it's interesting, because I don't know how many other fans around the country would be willing to put themselves in financial debt, mortgage their house, put all the time and effort into keeping their franchise. You got to have a serious passion, and I think that's such a great representation of what we believe we are as a fan base. The 12s, the Seahawks fans, We believe that we're unique. We feel like we're special in the NFL among all the fan bases. And I think you're a prime example of it. I mean, you did what Baltimore couldn't do for the Colts, what Cleveland couldn't do for the Browns, what L.A. couldn't do for the Rams, what St. Louis couldn't do for the Cardinals. I mean, all those teams moved and shuffled and changed locations multiple times in some regards, but you were able to inspire a group of people and inspire a very, very rich man to keep this team here. I think that's significant.
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that because I just got contacted by somebody in St. Louis like a week, like the week of the St. Louis game. Mark, what can you do to help us keep the Rams here? I'm like, I don't know.
You know what they can do? They can hire you for a lot of money. Is what they can do. That's what I would do if I were them. That's for sure.
I don't know about that. I think their lease is up in March and stuff, and I think the writing's on the wall. It's unfortunate. But again, you know, the people in the L.A. market, they say, well, it was the L.A. Rams before that, but they were actually they originally weren't the L.A. Rams, were they?
No, well, it was the they were the L.A. Rams.
No, but before that, Slickhawk, where were they?
Oh, boy. I'm not sure I know the ins and outs of the Rams franchise, but I don't think LA was the original spot.
St. Louis originally had the Cardinals. I know that.
Right. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it's a tough call. I mean, we got lucky. Granted, we got lucky. Our fan base stood up, you know, and thank God to Paul Allen. I mean, if we didn't have Paul Allen, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it right now.
No question about it. Let's do this. Let's take another quick timeout. We'll wrap things up. I know that you've got another cause. I mean, you're the kind of guy that will give his shirt off his back to help people. Yeah. You've got another cause that you want to talk about, a great one. Yeah. And then I want you to introduce this crazy, wacky dude to your left that keeps shining this camera on us. Who is this crazy Seahawk fan? Well,
this is Norb-Cam, man. He's nuts.
Our conversation with Mark Collins of Save Our Seahawks next on Sportsradio 950 KJR. I mean, what an incredible story. I'm telling you, Mark, if there's not a book written about this, I'm going to be... I can't believe there isn't already, first of all. You need to team up with the big book guys like Mike Gastineau and his people and get that thing written, because you've got a million stories during this period of time that you guys went through everything to try to get this franchise saved and out of the hands of the clutches of Dr. Evil and out L.A., and you've got some great, hilarious stories, and unfortunately we don't have the time that I would love to dedicate to hearing those, but you got to get a book going.
Oh, man. I know. I mean, everybody keeps saying that. Even Mike Flood, I had lunch out there.
Dude, and Flood's the man. That guy's awesome over there.
Because, I think they've always, they're like, Mark, just shut up, go away.
Well,
but I was having lunch out there a couple of weeks ago because we're doing, as you know, we're going to do a fundraiser here for John Bachner. John Bachner's a fellow 12 that was unfortunately be 2 months tomorrow. He was injured in an auto accident and he's now paralyzed. And we're going to do a fundraiser on December 11th down in Puyallup, and we're going to help pay for his wheelchair van that we just recently found for him. So anyway, but.
And before we get away from that topic, because, there's been fundraisers for John Bachner, and again, like you said, a fellow 12, and wants to be able to drive a van in a wheelchair. Those are extremely expensive. Yeah. And a lot of folks have gotten together to try to put together the money to get this van to accommodate him so he can go on and be like you and I and be angry and have road rage of traffic while he's driving. Yeah. So once again, this fundraiser, and you're in a band, Latigo Lace.
Yep.
Which I've heard, and you guys are very, very good, by by
And we have a CD coming out pretty soon too. So I've actually,
it's awesome.
It's awesome. It's there's a song on there too that's dedicated to my late wife. It's called "What Do I Do with Me." It's very powerful, but
very cool.
Yeah, but anytime I can give back, I will. I'm the type of person who will give the shirt off my back to anybody. And
that's evident.
How, that's just how I am.
So December 11th, where in Puyallup?
It's the Big Whisky. It's not even open yet. In fact, I was down there looking at it yesterday. I'm like, are we going to be open? And I'm a contractor, and I may be down there helping them get the doors
open.
There you go,
pounding some nails. Is there a Facebook page or anything anybody can go to check it out?
Yeah, Norb and I, we're starting a thing called 12s, Helping 12s. Go and check that out. And we've got we just made some posters. We're scrambling as we peak. It's going to be an awesome event. And we're going to have some good fundraising. We're going to have some auction items and things like that. And everything is $12 because, we want to make it affordable to anybody. And even people that are not in our area, can't go to the event. we're encouraging you to send a check for $12. We don't, granted, you could do, we could get, credit cards or something going, but that's more overhead. We're trying to do this no overhead. Every dollar goes to John and Nicole. And so, we have a P.O. box for my foundation, the Jen Collins Foundation, and we're going to allow everybody to send anything they want, make a check out to John and Nicole Bachner, and we're going to give it to them. And we're just going to, the 12s are going to help this, and we're going to make this a reality for them.
Check it out and on Facebook, 12s Helping 12s. It's a great cause. John Bachner, a fellow 12 who got in an auto accident and paralyzed. And the whole goal is to get a wheelchair van where he can wheel up to the driver's seat and be free on the roads, which I think is a great thing and helps, anybody in that situation get back to what they knew,
Yeah, the thing is, like I told, we talked about off air that, because I deal with cancer patients a lot. And when you're dealt with an adversity like this, or you're being told that you have cancer, you have two battles going on. It's the physical battle, and then it's the battle that's between your ears, and that's the one that you got to control. And trying to keep a positive attitude. My wife did. She right to the very end. And if you can do that, it just helps the other physical battle that you're trying to get past. And in John's case, I know I talked to both John and Nicole last night. They're going through a roller coaster. Your emotions are going up and down. It's like. And I told her, I says, those little hills and valleys they're gonna smooth out, and you're gonna be fine. And I think they're looking forward to giving back. I talked to say, Jay, John, maybe you're gonna go talk to people about spinal cord injuries. But it's a little thing. It's a learning curve. And as 12s, all we want to do is we want to help and give back. And Norb here, who hopefully you're going to get to talk to Norb here. He's crazy.
Yeah, no, that was my next move. Here's this guy with the green hair over here across the way. Norb, famous for the Norb-Cam. Introduce yourself to everybody.
All right, what's up, 12s? This is Norb Kawili from Norb-Cam. You can check me out on Norbcam.com. Mark and I have gotten friends, became friends just recently after the Super Bowl, and I think you and I have absolutely, before all this, not much in common. You're a country guy, I'm an R&B guy, but we have the Seahawks in common.
Yeah, we do.
And I think tonight has just been kind of just watching all of you guys talk about everything from the feeling like the 12s haven't really been into it this year, and looking back at what the Seahawks once almost became extinct in Seattle. We have them here, Super Bowl champions, and it's like it's time to appreciate again that the fact that we are a Super Bowl team and that we are trying to repeat, and we still can. Yet it feels like there's this negative cloud sort of over because we're not the same team as last year. But, I think that, we just got to rekindle and appreciate our team. And, for those 12s who are at the stadium to go out there and, I feel like you were saying earlier, it's the responsibility of everyone who's got a ticket there that when we're on defense, you got to stand up, make noise. And when we're on offense, sit down and shut up, because nothing drives me crazy when people start doing the Seahawks chant when we have the ball. I'm like, quiet down over there. So anyway, Norb-Cam is it's a YouTube channel that I started last season. And it started out with me basically with my camera shooting myself at the games. And it was just more of a thing that I did at the Buccaneers game when we had our 21-point historic comeback. I just wanted to record it for posterity. Just I thought, this is history. I got to record this. And I kind of put it online for fun. And then people were like, oh, that was really cool, man. Can you do the next game? I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So then it just kind of, as we kept going on, the season built up to the Super Bowl ending. It just became more and more popular to where the NFC Championship game, that thing just blew up. It was the game of the sports history.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. And the reaction that we had, of course, taping that, and everybody in our Section 331, rejoicing in that moment. You got to watch the video on my YouTube.
Dude, you should see the smile on Norb's face right now as he talks about it. It's incredible. This guy.
We all shared it, right?
This is the epitome of a fan right here. The dude is so excited and enthused about reliving that memory. I love it, man.
Well, so I'm like Mark. I'm just a passionate fan, but I just happen to have certain skills, which happens to be filmmaking. So last year I just kind of bridged the two together, and I thought, hey, I should put these two together and do something with it. So, went to the Super Bowl with my dad, and it was a trip of a lifetime, of course, to not only travel with him, but to watch our first Super Bowl win. And to have it on video. was just, again, a keepsake for me, but I thought this is just something to share with the world. And so I posted that up, and that's the number one viewed video on my channel. But it's amazing how many people have gotten to know me through that experience, through that trip. People come up to me, I'll be at a Mariners game, hey man, I saw that video of you and your dad at the Super Bowl. That was really cool. And what's amazing, like Mark said earlier, there are people from around the world. I had no idea we had so many fans in Germany and the Philippines and Japan. And they text me, they contact me, they thank me for putting these videos. I continue to do this every game. And I do it, just because it's fun for me. If I love to share it and let people see what it's like to be in the stadium. But these guys tell me, we don't get the games where we live. So your channel is how we can rewatch the games as fans, because we don't have that in our city or in our country. Yeah. So thank you. Please keep doing it. So that just fueled my fire to, when the Super Bowl is over, it's like, well, what next? Well, I got to keep something going. So, so I continued to do these, I call them Norblogs.
And so your channel on YouTube is Norb-Cam? Is that
it's
what
Norb-Cam,
I can?
yeah.
Because what I'd like to do, with your permission, and I don't know why you wouldn't, but I'd like to, after you do one each week, put it on our 12th Man Mania page here at sportsradiokjr.com, so people can access that as well, because, we've got fans coming to that page all the time to see what we have cooking. I think that's awesome. And I'm just kind of curious, why haven't you heard from GoPro for a sponsorship yet? Because you holding that camera the whole time has got to be a pain in the ass.
Well, it's funny because this is my small camera, this little camcorder here, but you can't see it, but it's a little palm-sized one. But actually, the NFL prohibits camcorders at games, so I bring in my DSLR, which is a big Nikon thing, and it's twice as heavy, twice as big, and that one technically gets under the specs of camcorders, so that's what I'm using now because I don't want to get my camera taken away.
Right.
So anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's been such a great experience to not only share it with the people here in Seattle, but also around the world.
Then the rival one, that's the one that really kind of took off. And I told Norb, I said, you're kind of like me, man. Now you bypassed Rich and went straight to famous.
Well, KJR did help me out, KJR on Facebook, because besides doing these in-game videos, I started doing these other more creative, just to fuel the 12's passion.
Yeah,
and
cool.
So I came up with this series called Rivals, and it's basically the premise is I'm in a men's restroom, and a rival fan walks up in the stall next to me, and we start trash talking.
Oh,
and it ends up in a very violent conflict, where of course who wins? The 12th man.
Yeah, there it is. Listen, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Very superhero-ish.
Anyway, so we did the one that really took off was this Denver Broncos one, where my buddy Mike, my business partner, happens to be, plays, and he's really a true Denver Bronco fan. He played himself basically, and we get into this. We get into this laser fight where he's shooting me down with a laser gun. I'm hiding in the toilet stall and everything. Anyway, I can his head with this Denver Broncos garbage can, and I just we aired this right before the Denver Bronco game, and KJR on Facebook got in this, hey, can we put this on Facebook? I was like,
cool.
Yeah, run with it.
Cool.
And it had 250,000 views, but it was great. And we're doing a Cardinals one already shot. It's coming out soon.
I love it.
So
I love it. We'll get it up on our 12th Man Mania page. A text coming in from the 360. I've been a Seahawks fan since 2000. I want to thank Mark, because if he didn't do what he did, I may be a Cowboys fan. Ooh, that would be terrible.
Pooey.
Listen, first of all, I hope this isn't the last time we see you guys here in studio for 12th Man Mania, especially when we get a big crowd in here for you to film something I think would be awesome. And your spirit as 12s to rally people when we get a large in-studio audience. And I want to extend an invitation. These are by winning only. You have to win these, but I'm going to extend the invitation to you two to be at our 12-12 party, December 12th, the Blue Friday before the 49er game.
Cool.
We're going to have a special bash here on the radio. It's going to be awesome. So love for you guys to be here.
Is there food involved?
Of course there's food involved. Our best friends at Hawk Strong are catering this event, man.
And beer, I assume.
Well, Hilliard's, the 12th can. Come on, man. Who do you think you're dealing with here, Mark?
Well, but actually I don't drink beer. Well, I will if there's. Oh, there we go. if you got Clamato juice, bring the Clamato juice. Either that or just have a bottle of Grand Marnier.
Hey, man.
Grand Marnier for me.
Whatever you need. Whatever you thank you both for coming, Mark. Thanks for you. Thanks for everything that you've done. Everybody that you got involved in Save Our Seahawks. We appreciate you, and I know you think of yourself as a common mortal, but I think others have different thoughts on that. So thanks again, man, for sharing your story.
Hey, it was fun then, it's fun now, and it's going to be fun in the future. I'm telling you, what you're going to find out I was true about what I said about Russell Wilson earlier.
We'll get into that next time. Slickhawk, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Mark Collins. Thanks to Norb from Norb-Cam Slickhawk. Thanks to you, our intern outside, David Garcia, for doing a great job. We'll be back with you tomorrow night, 8 to 9, right here on Sports Radio 950 KJR.
Yeah, it's hard to get all those. I mean, because there's so many stories that you could just. I mean, we could talk forever about this.
Half your stuff has to be off the record, though.
Oh yeah, but
Right.
Well, I mean, honestly, I've told people, if I write the book, I just have to change the names to protect the guilty.
That's awesome. No, thank you. You guys are awesome. You're awesome.
Thanks, Brian.
The story's great. Appreciate it. I hope you guys will come down again and hang out.
Yeah.
You can bring your wife and kids, whatever you want to do, too.
Well, it's funny, we were talking about our dads. My dad's about the same age as your dad, and his birthday is 12/12.
Oh, is it really?
Yep, it's 12/12.
Bring your dad if you want to.
He was at the last game with me, and we win every time he goes.
Hey, it's the Captain Brian Abker, Sports Radio KJR, and you're watching Norb-Cam.
Hey, 12th man, it's Slickhawk here at Sports Radio 950 KJR, and you are watching Norb-Cam. Go Hawks!
Thank you for watching Norb-Cam. Please subscribe to my channel by clicking the button at the top. To watch my journey to St. Louis for the Seahawks-Rams game, click the video on the left. To watch the Seahawks win over the Panthers, click the video in the middle. To watch Rivals Episode 2, where I battle this 80s Broncos fan named Mike, click the video on the right. Thanks for watching.
Go Hawks!